So what the heck are these things made for anyway? I could multiply these images 1,000-fold and more. We find them all across North America. Many researchers, of course, have suggested that these represent trail or territorial markers. It seems very unlikely that most of them could be used as shelters. Given how rudimentary they are, they wouldn't seem to protect against the elements. I'm sure that often they are used to define boundaries between territories or to mark trails, but I don't think that all of them fall into this category. And even those that do can work double duty, being purposeful too on another level. So when you see some bunch of barkless limbs and things stuck on one side in a tree, you can often expect to find them on the other side too. And here they are. So you got them coming up on this side, this one on this side, these two on this side. I just happened to glance over and see this. Pretty cool. They're crossing really tightly in the middle. Wow. Very This tight. Formation is remarkably similar to one that I found about 12 miles away. In this case, 2 living trees have been brought over to contribute to the wheel structure. If they are not physical shelters, they may still serve as some sort of psychological or emotional shelter or comfort. In her excellent memoir, Songs of the Gorilla Nation, Dawn Prince Hughes speaks about building structures for herself when she was a child, growing up with autism. What she loved about them, what she really responded to, were their symmetry and their satisfying form. She writes, "I gained some relief by arranging things. Most autistic people need order and ritual, and will find ways to make order when they feel chaos." There are, of course, many differences between the human manifestations of autism and how it seems that Sasquatch are. For example, Sasquatch probably don't suffer the same sorts of sensory overload that autistic people do. But what I'm hoping to do is point out certain productive intersections as well.
It's all right, Charlie. Look, there. Oh, I'm sorry. I put it in the wrong place.
And at first you figure must be all one small stand of saplings that were pushed over. And you start investigating and you see that none of them grew here. They're all branches detached from the source. And there are many, many, many laid against this cross beam. And these that all come through between these 2 trees, all of these are loose branches. 5 loose branches brought here from somewhere else and laid in to this trough here. It reminds me of another group of branches that I found that were laid along a log, and they happened to be on the same trail that I recorded the wood knocks on.
All he wants to do is line things up. No more lining up. Let's color with paper, please. Let me see, make a pretty picture.
Her lining up things of my 4-year-old has gotten pretty extreme. Some classical signs of autism.
This is pretty darling. You have this tiny baby sapling. That side goes under here. And then this side goes under here. The day that I came across that little structure, I had just come through this valley here and climbed up this mountain. That's why I'm out of breath. I just climbed that pretty quickly. And then I only went another couple hundred yards that night. It was September 15th, 2009. And it was right here that I was sleeping that night when something pretty extraordinary happened. I was snoring. The audio picks up my snoring, and then it picks up some other sounds. At 10:17, there is this sharp crack. Which seems to have been produced by pushing on the tree that will come up a little later. 29 seconds after this, there's a thump on the ground, followed immediately by the same kind of stick snapping that I had heard at the other location. And then 6 seconds after that, at 10:22 p.m., 5 minutes after the first snap, I wake up to the sound of the tree being pushed on in earnest. Whoa! I knew it was really close, but I couldn't see how close because it was one of those moonless nights and there was still a good leaf canopy over me, so I couldn't see my hand at the end of my arm. This tree, it turned out, fell just 6.5 feet from my body, exactly parallel to my body. If it had come across me, it really could have done a damage because it was about 11 inches in diameter and very heavy. I think whatever it was that pushed the tree over was trying to get a rise out of me earlier and had been pushing at the tree and snapping twigs and thumping on the ground, trying to wake me up. And when that didn't work, it escalated until finally it pushed the tree down next to me. This is very typically reported Sasquatch behavior. They will intimidate us and retaliate against us for encroaching into their territory. When autistic people throw tantrums and push back against too direct contact or attempted interaction by others, it's very loud and emotionally uncontrolled, whereas Sasquatch is very survival. The way that they have been able to accomplish what they have over centuries is to be highly, highly controlled and disciplined. So naturally, their, quote, tantrums, when they occur, when they need to send a message to us, take a very precise and careful form. They don't pitch a fit in the way that people do, but they make their intentions clear. The main parallel that has struck me between Sasquatch nature and the nature of autism shows itself in the case of the autistic Savant.
I'm gonna do a drawing of New York City from the memory.
These are people with extraordinary cognitive abilities, photographic memory, genius-level strategic thinking, etc., etc. Again, in order to be able to survive alongside us without even being believed in, much less killed off or dominated. Sasquatch simply must possess faculties that are far beyond those of the average human being. Autistic savants possess just such faculties. Here, for instance, is the so-called human camera, Stephen Wiltshire. Think of the sort of photographic memory that would be required for a Sasquatch to know just about every inch of its territory and the human routines that go on within that territory. This is why game cameras and lots of tricks that Sasquatch researchers try out never seem to work. I explore many of these points of connection in my book, The Mind of Sasquatch, and I'm hard at work now on Volume 2, which is scheduled for release this fall. Finally, I want to look at just two more simple physical resemblances. The first is the autistic tendency to create rhythm that seems to soothe or calm the individual. In my 2009 footage of a Sasquatch watching us from behind a woodpile, we can see the left hand flicking or flexing repeatedly. Last summer, I was lucky enough to find a spot where sometimes one and sometimes more than one Sasquatch spent many hours, especially during the morning, and I was able to put the audio recorder very close to where they were. Many witnesses report seeing Sasquatch sway back and forth. This is another kind of rhythm. Autistic people rock and sway back and forth. Another way of calming themselves, of creating order when they feel emotional or perceptual chaos. There are, of course, many differences between the human manifestations of autism and how it seems that Sasquatch are. But what I'm hoping to do is point out certain productive intersections as well. This species probably does not experience chaos in the same way that autistic people do. But I think that we can all agree that every minute of every day they are aware at a deep level of the threat they face against our species. A species who would dearly love to control and suppress them, as we do with nature, every chance we get. Regardless of how we may come to understand them, Sasquatch's astonishing gifts have allowed them to remain free and independent since prehistory.